some secrets, I'm shaking the game so they stay on their toes. Stay in your lane, how to stay on the go. I came to play with the pros and act like a rookie, so they overlook me. Then I double up again under their nose. None of them cold, they just got lucky but never adapted. So I'm 10 to 1 if it's coming to blows. My enemies cutting it close. I let them think that they got me, but what do you know? I had them
Today is a great day for us to talk about what's going on in the industry. And in the industry, I mean the cycling industry. Let's see if we can get Paul on here. There he is.
Hey,
What's up? Paul's coming live from where are you, Paul?
I'm down in New Orleans.
New Orleans.
Yeah.
Paul was doing some fancy
75 degrees down here today.
75 degrees, some fancy gravel riding I was checking out.
You like that, right? That was down in South Carolina. This light's too much.
That gravel road looked ridiculous. It looked like it was just groomed.
It was amazing. And that was a video from the week after Christmas.
So some of the things that we wanted to talk about today, Paul.
Let's wait. Can we do like an actual introduction? Let's do an
introduction. Why don't you introduce yourself? Everybody wants to know who Paul is, especially my sisters and their friends. They want to know who's this good looking guy. Who's this good looking guy? They always say, who's this good looking guy that you ride with, Donald? And I'm like, oh, that's Dr. Paul Lavelli.
Paul Lavelli wouldn't exist in the bicycling world without his bud, Donald Rucker. There's no doubt about it. Paul Lavelli wrecks some stuff. He wrecks some stuff a lot, and Donald bails him out.
You ride hard. That's what it's about. You are one of the guys that actually rides and beats the hell out of your bikes.
I put a lot of miles on them.
Yeah. And I think it's pretty cool, man. I think it's cool. I mean, I kind of want to be like that. I'm kind of a mixture. I like to work on them, but I like to ride them too. I don't want to say you don't care about what bike you ride. I think you're more on the lines of caring about the ride more than the bike, right? Where there's a lot of people out there that are no more cyclists or less cyclists than I am or you are, that really don't care about the ride. They care about the bike.
Right. I would characterize you as a guy who owns fewer bikes but nicer bikes. Like your bikes are top of the line stuff. You like good quality componentry.
That's recent though. That's recent. I used to be to the point. It was funny because I have you'll hear this name come up a lot because I trained with this guy for 25, almost 30 years. Frank Johnson used to always laugh at me because I was working in shops, but I would ride the junkiest stuff. And it didn't matter to me because it wasn't about the bike. It was about the ride and the competition. It was all about the competition and the ride. And, but being in the industry, in order for me to get business out of this industry, I had to legitimize myself, right? So when I used to ride crappy bikes and show up to a really good group ride, no one would ever ask. I could outperform everybody on the group ride. And at the end of the group ride with my single speed bike that looks like I brought out of a dumpster, no one would ask me questions about the bike after the ride. But when I started showing up with matching gear, a nice bike, and he fell. And also started doing well on the rides. After the rides, I found myself being asked a lot more questions about the bike, about the gear, about everything. So because I'm in the business, I feel like me representing my shop, me representing the industry, I need to have nicer bikes. I need to have the newer bikes. I need to have things like that would entice people to want to ask me questions. So historically, I wasn't the guy with the nice bikes, but now that I know it's good for business and it's smart, and I go on rides where there's upwards of 300 people at these group rides.
Oh, yeah.
And they show up with the nicest bikes. And if I show up with something that's new and modern that they haven't seen before, they ask me questions. I make myself approachable. So they ask me questions. So that's why now I have nice bikes and I tend to show up with the latest, greatest, because maybe not the highest end, but technology wise, I'll have the nicer bike for sure.
Oh, it's not just in a group ride. Full disclosure, you can be riding with Donald Rucker, and we can be stopped several times during our ride as we're passing by people.
Yeah, yeah. I make myself approachable for sure. I think that goes along with what we do, and being in this industry, I think we need to make ourselves approachable.
Yeah, you and I have talked about making that Elkridge shop kind of like the barber shop of bike shops, where people just come in and park a bike outside and come in and grab a coffee and chat and talk equipment and rides and tease each other. You know, just have that flavor to it.
For sure, it'll be a good destination spot to leave from your rides and to come back from your rides, or in the middle of your ride.
All right, well, let's get into then our topic, because after we were talking about that, you and I talked about opportunities in the bike industry, right? So I think, you know, from my perspective, not being a shop owner, COVID happened, right? And a lot of people got into recreation in general, and a lot of people got into biking in general. So you and I were talking about even just looking on Facebook Marketplace, there's a lot more bikes for sale currently than I've seen in a long time. A lot higher end bikes too for sale, which were really difficult to get, you know, not so long ago when they weren't even available, where you couldn't even get a bike at all. You had to wait, you know, almost a year to get a bike in. So there's some opportunities for buying a bike, buying a used bike, and then there's also some opportunities for upgrading your current bike. You know, because I'm looking at some of the deals, and you and I were talking, I think 2 days ago, about, hey, you can get a whole group set, you know, for a lot cheaper than we've ever seen in quite some time, especially after the COVID prices, you know, rose. So let's go through that. Why don't you talk a little bit about that, and then we'll talk about how to go about this.
Yeah. So when, like you said, when COVID hit, all the gyms, anything that was indoors, obviously everybody knows this COVID story. We couldn't go to gyms anymore. We couldn't do anything around other people. So all these outdoor recreations started to blossom and went crazy. Our industry was up almost 100% during COVID, at the beginning of COVID. Every bike in every bike shop, whether it fit or not, was sold. There were hundreds and thousands of bike shops that didn't have bikes at all, not one bike in their shop. So it went crazy. We all struggled to find the smallest parts, the stupidest little things. I mean, we couldn't even find a spoke. There were no chains for us to put on bikes for people. Like if they wore out their chain on their bike, we couldn't even get them a chain to put on their bike. So we started buying stuff in bulk, right? So we were scared. So we started hoarding as much as we could possibly hoard. And our bike manufacturers that we went to, like we're a Specialized dealer, we're a Cannondale dealer, we deal with other brands. Everybody was coming to us saying, if you want bikes, you have to order a lot of bikes, okay? So we were ordering, at first we were taking orders on bikes, and we would have people put money down. The time frames from when these bikes were supposed to be delivered to our shop, they were late by months, some by almost a year getting here to the shop. So what we stopped doing is we stopped taking deposits on these bikes, because I would have to refund these deposits months after they were ordered, because I can't give you a true date on when your bike's going to be here. So I understand. I didn't want to hold on to people's money, right? So what we did was we gave those deposits back, and we started taking bikes on order without deposits. You know, it's a good thing and a bad thing. You know, not everybody, still these bikes are coming in late. Not everybody waited that long to get their bikes. We couldn't give you a date. I could only say, hey, your bike is on order. It'll be here sometime within this window and that window. And that window would come and it would go, and the bike still wouldn't be here, right? So what was scary was as a bike shops, we started looking bad, right? But we placed these huge orders because our manufacturer said, if you don't place these orders, you're not going to ever get the bikes. If you don't order them, they're not going to come. And that makes sense, right? So we started ordering bikes by the hundreds. And then all of a sudden there was a weird shift in the people that were buying bikes. The manufacturers ramped up all their manufacturing. All right. People stopped buying bikes after they built all these bikes. So the bike sales dropped dramatically, but we had already ordered hundreds of bikes. We were lucky enough to have the opportunity to cancel a lot of these orders, which left the industry with hundreds and thousands of bikes that from canceled bike shop orders. We're not the only shop that was canceling orders. Every shop had to cancel orders, right? The demand for these bikes is no longer high. It's low demand now because we've saturated everybody with new bikes. So the demand now is really low. The product is really high, super high. The manufacturers have everything, which leads us to where we are right now.
And just for because I worked retail for a while, maybe not everybody knows this, but when a retail establishment buys a product from a manufacturer, it's theirs. It's not like you're representing Specialized, and when it sells, you give Specialized some money, and then you keep some of the overhead. No. You buy the bike from Specialized.
Right.
The margins on bikes aren't very good. I know that. You're the shop owner, of course, know that, right?
Bicycle margins are so low at some points. It's, in my opinion, it's one of those necessary evils. To be a bike shop, you have to have bikes, right? If not, you're a service shop. We have very low margins on the bikes that take up the most amount of space in your building, right? So the things that make you the least amount of percentage wise are the things that take up the most. And also those are the biggest overheads, right? So now we're dealing with bicycles just being like you said, we paid for them. We get what they call terms. A good term could be, we may not have to pay for it for 90 days. That's an incredible term. But most of them want their money in about 30 days. And what we're also dealing with is what they call direct to consumer marketing, right? So you've already paid for your $14,000 retail bike. And the guy the dealer that you're dealing with all of a sudden puts that $14,000 bike on sale for $12,000, right? No one's going to come to your shop and buy your $14,000 bike when they can click a button and buy the same bike for $12,000 direct from the manufacturer
And get it assembled for $150, right? Maybe even cheaper.
I mean, to be honest with you, a lot of the manufacturers are actually putting the bikes together to the point where you just have to pull it out of a box and put the handlebars on and you're ready to ride. Right?
And I think too, somebody put in a comment, right now people are overpricing their used bikes, but I think what's really happened is when people bought those bikes, they were paying the high end. They weren't paying sale prices 2 years ago, right? They were paying exactly what it costs, if not a markup on some things. And so they're trying to get some of their money back. But right now, you and I had a conversation about some bikes that were on sale, and we'll talk a little bit more about this, but at Canyon, not the Bash Canyon, but because I'm a Canyon bike rider myself. But Canyon was having, these bikes on sale for like $3,500, carbon frame, Arrow, carbon wheels, 105, which is the old Ultegra. So it was a really, $3,200 was a really good deal. But you brought up the problem with that bike is the proprietary parts, and I do want to talk a little bit about that. But I think really what happens is people are trying to get their money back for what they paid if they're no longer riding that bike. And we'll have to see how the used marketplace plays out in terms of pricing. So, but let's talk a little bit about proprietary parts, and I think that's a key people don't understand. When you buy that bike with an integrated integrated frame and parts, and you can't get those parts down the road, right? So when you're
I,
trying to fix something,
I'm a car guy. Everybody that knows me knows that I'm into cars. And I always use the analogy of like you bought a Ferrari, you bought a Porsche, right? You're not going to go to Pep Boys and be able to get these parts from Pep Boys. You got to get these parts from Ferrari. You got to get these parts from Porsche. So when it's time for you to have a part replaced,
unless you know the Audi Volkswagen secret. But anyway,
unless you know some, yeah, unless you know some, right? Life's about hacks, guys. So unless you know these hacks, you're kind of stuck, right? So you get this proprietary part that only you can get from Canyon, and now you got to rely on good customer service from Canyon because there's no Canyon dealers around. So once you say, if you brought your Canyon bike into me and you bought it offline, you're not getting the Patapsco hookup, right? I'm going to charge you to fix your bike, to work on your bike. And these proprietary parts are very hard to find. I got to then tell the customer, you got to order your part from Canyon because I'm not a Canyon dealer. I can't order your part. You have to order your part from Canyon. You have to bring that part back into me. I know some guys that have been riding iCan wheels for shit. I mean, they have thousands of miles on their iCan wheels, right? That's a Chinese wheel. But it's a Chinese wheel that has a manufacturer behind it, okay? It's not a Chinese no-name wheel, right? Because you can get those too. You get those wheels that don't have any names on them. They're just made in China. If something happened to that wheel and you needed warranted, who are you sending it back to? Do you know if there's any kind of quality control on that Chinese wheel, right? What kind of carbon, if it's really carbon on it, did they put an outer skin of carbon and the rest of it being fiberglass or whatever else, right? You don't know. These are things that you don't know. And if you're willing to risk your life and people around you, especially while riding in groups, you got to remember when you ride in groups, it's not only about you, it's also about the people that are around you. Okay. A lot of people don't think about that. They don't think about the dangers of their parts failing and taking out everyone around you. You know, so I've seen handlebars fail. I've seen stems fail. I've seen frames crack for no reason. I've seen, you name it, I've seen it with the lower end parts. So you're taking a risk in your hand. But the price, a lot of time, people only shop for the price. So, you know, if you're shopping for price, like I said, there's always sacrifices that you may have to come across.
I think too, one of the stories I remember you telling me is some of the knockoff bikes. So it looks like a Specialized, but it's not.
Yeah.
Specialized.
I normally call people out, but I'm gonna keep it quiet this time. I'm not gonna call any names out. But my boy Frank had a fake Pinarello, and he crashed it. He crashed it like, I mean, man, I think he crashed it maybe a month after he had it. It broke, severely broke in the crash. It was all mangled. He said he'll never, ever do that again. And that's the last time I'll call Frank out, I promise.
That's not true, but anyway.
It's not true. It's not true at all.
Well, let's stop bashing some bikes. Let's talk about opportunities. What do you see?
Okay.
What do you see are opportunities out there now, given that some of the manufacturers are bringing down prices? You and I talked about SRAM group sets right now, just off the charts low prices for some SRAM group sets. And you and I are certainly off-road SRAM fans. So talk about some opportunities.
So I'm a SRAM fan for a handful of reasons. Traditionally, I was all about Shimano. And I still think Shimano makes a really, really good group. I just think for the money and for the ease of working in from the consumer side, being able to adjust your own stuff and really maintain your own bike, there's nothing like SRAM. SRAM acts as far, and we're talking electronics, right? If we're talking the manual shifting, they're really all about the same. You probably want to bring your manual shifting type of stuff into a shop and have it tuned, unless you really know what you're doing, because you'll end up throwing it into your spokes, your rear derailleur into your spokes, and you're going to just ruin everything you have. So I am trying to scare you because these are facts. Um, if you don't know how to really work on your stuff, take it into your local shop, have them work on it. Hopefully your local shop will be doing some maintenance classes. Like we'll have some maintenance classes here at Patapsco, but you need to learn how to really work on your bike before you start just tinkering it with it, because it could cost you a lot of money. I choose the SRAM stuff right now because SRAM is, one, it's cheaper than Shimano. Two, it's easier to set up than Shimano, especially if you have to run cables through your frames and things like that. I love it. I love SRAM for setting up. And that's one of the reasons I sell SRAM more, because not only do I ride it, but it's so easy as a mechanic to build a SRAM bike compared to a Shimano bike. Even Shimano says that they're wireless now. Let's just be honest. They have one less wire than they used to. That's it. Their wireless setup is only one less wire than it used to be. There's still wires going to the battery. There's still a battery inside the seat post. There's still wires going to the front derailleur and back derailleur. It's one less really thin wire. It's not enough to even say anything about, sorry, Shimano, but that's just the facts. So again, remember, industry manufacturers made way too many of products. SRAM did the same thing. So right now, you can buy a full SRAM. You can buy a full SRAM red group. I think it's. I think me and Jeremiah, who's on here right now, Jeremiah, I think we were pricing it out around $1,300 for a SRAM red group. This is the highest end SRAM group that you can buy for $1,300. To put it in perspective, it's about 30%, 25 to 30% cheaper than it was this time last year.
That's shifters. Those are disc brakes. That's derailleur, front derailleur, rear, if I'm not mistaken. That's honestly, that's even on Amazon right now.
Crankset also.
Oh, Crankset also. Okay.
Yeah. So you can get, Jeremiah just said, yeah, you can get a force group for about $1,000 now. That's crazy. Well, all right, 1,200, 1,300 minus cranks, $1,000 for a force group. That's still ridiculously cheap, everybody. If you're talking, and what we're building again is we're building race level bikes, right? So we're building bikes that are, let's just say $5,000 and up. Okay, these are prices that you're going to get on these bikes that you build like $5,000 and up. And it's not just road bikes. They're mountain bikes. You can get an upgrade kit for your mountain bike, a SRAM GX upgrade kit on your mountain bike for like $500. You know what I mean? And go wireless. It's crazy. So prices are coming down because demand has also come down. But the manufacturer, again, has made so many of these things. Bike shops aren't the only people that are canceling orders. Manufacturers are canceling orders. So SRAM made, let's just say Cannondale. Cannondale said, hey, we need 20,000 SRAM red groups. And then when the SRAM rushed and made all these groups, and then Cannondale's like, psych, we don't really need them. We actually are stopping manufacturing a lot of these bikes. We have too many bikes as it is. We're not gonna need those groups anymore. So SRAM stuck with the groups. What are they gonna do? They got to sell them. And one way to sell those groups is to discount the price.
What would you do? All right, so let's say it's January, right? What would you do? You're looking at your bike, you're looking at your stable. Like, what would you do first? What would you upgrade first? What would you look at and say, hey, do I need a new bike? Should I do a new group set? Is it time? Can I move an old group set to an older bike? You know, what would you do?
If we're talking money, things that make sense to upgrade on your bike, you want to look at the more expensive things. And it's not just me trying to be a salesman, but you're going to save the biggest amount of money on the more expensive things. And right now, again, is a good time to buy those expensive parts. So if you had a nice bike already, but you want to now upgrade to a carbon frame, buy your carbon frame now if you can get it. Best upgrade. Donald,
I buy a carbon frame and I've got these parts on my old frame. Ballpark. I know you can't give me an exact number, ballpark. I bring it into Patapsco. What does it cost me to move all those parts?
Frame up build, so it depends. If you bring me all the parts in and it's not up, it's around $275.
That's a good deal.
It's a great deal.
Yeah, that's a real good deal. All right, so you would look at the group sets first. What about wheels? Everybody says upgrade your wheels, upgrade your wheels.
And the easiest way to get rid of rotational mass, spun weight, is getting some nice light wheels.
I can talk a little bit about something we've done to a couple of my bikes, right? We took that Fuji One, which was an old aluminum cross bike when I started cross racing, and we put it on a diet, right? We put a new set of handlebars on it, a new stem, and some carbon wheels. The bike went on a diet. It went from like 21.5 pounds to 18.2 or something like that, right? Without the pedals on. So it was really like those upgrades probably cost me $1,000, but I got a bike that weighed a gravel capable bike that weighed 18.2 pounds,
Right.
all set up. So that was definitely, in my estimation, going out there and buying a new bike or just putting a couple of really good quality carbon components on your bike, which we got them all on sale, by the way, right?
Yeah.
Which was a really great deal. So that's when I'm looking at my bikes. I'm thinking, can a bike go on a diet? What can we do to always take off some weight? And then cutting the seat post, or if we got that extended stem, bring it into the shop, let you guys cut it down for whatever price you do, which is pretty cheap. But just looking at opportunities to take weight off a bike or upgrade your parts, take some weight off, and really make it into a new bike. It totally feels like a great new bike that I have.
Yeah, so
and not using.
the manufacturers ramped up on the everyday person's bike. That's the bikes that are available, and they have thousands of them. They're on sale everywhere. But for the cycling enthusiast or the racer or someone that wants a higher level bike, those bikes are still hard to get. And those prices aren't going down like that. That's why it's so like you said, it's to upgrade now is probably key.
I'm going to hit you with a question you and I have not talked about. What about this 1x setup with the new hubs that make it look like a 2x? What are you thinking about that?
1x7.
1x setups, but it's got a hub that can shift and make it a 2x, the hub in the rear.
Oh yeah, man. That's actually been around for a long time. They've just started making them light enough for people to make it acceptable. So that's where we are. So I think the biggest upgrades, I think the smartest upgrades right now, again, in my opinion, if I had $1,000 to spend, I'd do a wheel set. If you don't already have a carbon wheel set, I'd buy a wheel set.
Next would be the group set, because I think the group set deals are crazy good right now.
We want people to engage in these Black and Tans. So when you check into Black and Tan, you'll actually see it'll say, do you want to join? If you want to join us on Black and Tan, just like there's a split screen between me and Paul, you can actually join us and come in and ask some questions live with us on Black and Tan. Remember, we're just getting started. This is going to get bigger and bigger and better every single time.
Eventually, we're going to move to the YouTube live format. That's going to happen, right?
Yeah, and we'll be on Spotify. We'll be on all the podcast platforms as well. I just had a good conversation with someone who actually is going to direct us into doing that. That's what she did in college, and she said she can help us out.
Super.
So,
and I do want to make an announcement since we're talking about that. But on January 25th, we're going to have Gordon and Emily they're the organizers of the Appalachian Journey. And for those of you who have been following us, they would know that you and I are going to do a duo race together on April 1st, a gravel race of 108 miles that one of us is really looking forward to.
We both, to be honest, man, we're both I'm looking, well, if maybe you're not looking forward to it. I don't know how to say that. Are you saying you're not looking forward to it?
No, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to it.
Okay. So I'm looking forward to it as well, right? I feel like I've done a lot of events. I've done the Shenandoah 100. I've done a lot of events, and I haven't challenged myself in a while. I haven't challenged myself ever since I feel like I actually need to train for these events, right? And what I mean by that is years ago when I was younger, I just rode my bike a ton. So I never really had a training regimen. I never really like stayed on the bike and did this and that. I just rode a lot because I like to ride. And because I rode so much, I was able to jump into a lot of races and actually do okay in a lot of these races. Now that I'm turning 50, it's not going to be as easy. I can't just come off the couch and do a 110-mile race with 11,000 feet of climbing. It's not going to happen. It's going to take some dedication from my side and some sacrifices from my side. So my sacrifice is absolutely love food. I can be 220 pounds if I didn't care pretty easily. So my sacrifice is everything in moderation. So I've been really slowing down on the crazy foods that I've been eating. I planned on riding as many days and as much as I possibly can with more structure than I've ever done before. So if you follow me on Strava and you look at Strava, I haven't missed a day since the beginning of the year. Not that we're too far in here, but by now I would have definitely been off the bike for a handful of days. And it's not just riding, it's quality riding that I'm looking for. Days that are super low in intensity and days that are super high in intensity. And they have to be, just like everybody else, they have to be structured. So I'm challenging myself to see what I can do as far as riding. I'm looking forward to the challenge.
And just for everybody, I'll repeat it. The race is the Appalachian Journey. It's on April 1st. You can find it on Bike Reg. Gordon Wadsworth and Emily, who I think Emily's actually his wife, are coming on January 25th, and they'll be part of the Black and Tan podcast. So we'll get to ask a lot of questions about the route, which is very similar to last year, but not exact. And they'll get you tire. We'll ask them about tire choice. We'll ask them a lot of different gravel questions, camping options that we're going to do when we're down there. I know I'm going to pull my RV down there. We're going to do some good cooking for our group, and a couple other guys are going to be camped around us. So I'm really looking forward to that. It should be a great event. And if somebody needs a gravel bike, it's a good opportunity to be in the marketplace for a gravel bike because there's some good deals out there. Right?
I can guarantee you after that race, there's going to be a lot of people that say, I'm selling this bike.
They're done.
So if you're looking for a gravel bike, these ridiculously hard events, at the end of the event, when the person is suffering the most and never wants to see another gravel bike again, is your great opportunity to grab one of these bikes at a discounted price.
Let's wrap this up before we get
Let's
dropped
do it.
off. January 25th, the Appalachian Journey, our race, Donald. We're going to get to talk about it with the organizers.
Is it the 25th or the 23rd?
Whatever that Wednesday is. What is it? At the 23rd?
It might be.
It's the 23rd. It's the 23rd. I'm sorry. It is the 23rd.
Okay.
Good call on that.
Yeah.
January 23rd. That'll be our next episode. And then we'll go from there.
Right on. All right, guys. You guys have a good night. Keep the questions coming in, even if you're looking at this later on, because this will be up on our Black and Tan Instagram. You'll be able to go there and actually watch this. If you have any questions, keep those questions going. We'll answer them. We'll answer them the next time. If it's a good one, we'll bring it up. We'll answer it on the 23rd. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Have a good one.
Peace.